What's up, everybody? I am Poseidon, and welcome back to Psych Reacts. This week, we will be taking a look at the body language of Chris Watts. Now, right here, I have pulled up in front of me the full body cam footage on the day that Watts' family was reported missing. This is 3 hours long. We'll just be looking at the more important parts, and also if you want to go watch the whole thing, it is on True Crime Troy's channel, and he has a lot of timestamps below. Also, if you want to go check those out, we will be looking at a few of those. Last time, we looked at the text messages between Shannan and Chris, and Shannan and her best friend, and there was a whole bunch of relationship issues occurring. Now, apparently they were going to get a separation and get divorced. However, that is not what ended up happening. This is the day that Nicole has contacted the police saying, I dropped her off last night at 2. She went home. She had a doctor's appointment today, and she's not texting me back, and she usually does. So she called the police. The police came in and started looking around, checking everything out that they could. He couldn't go inside yet because he needed permission from Chris. So they were just talking about everything that was abnormal and how it just kind of seemed odd that she just disappeared off the face of the earth, especially being pregnant, and her friends were very worried about her. So they called Chris up, and Chris left work, came back to his house to greet the officer. Let's go ahead and take a look at that section. So here's Chris pulling up.
I'm here. Hang on. Yeah, get me on the phone. Okay, get Matt on the phone.
Scott, how you doing?
How's it going?
So this is the only vehicle she would have?
Only one that, yeah.
She would drive? Okay.
So Chris is looking for something in her car. He seems to have found something,
That's me.
and then goes inside.
The neighbors went and checked his camera and said that a white car drove away at 1. It was me, though. That was me. I dropped her off.
That was the last action on my camera.
Okay. That's throughout the whole day, or?
Besides Chris leaving?
Well, yeah.
What about the, is there any way you can look for today?
This is Chris's neighbor. He has a security cam footage over here watching the street and can see into Chris's driveway.
During the daytime?
Meanwhile, this whole time, Chris is inside the house alone.
Took the car seats.
I can go look if he doesn't find it.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Huh? Chris is in the house. We're standing outside of his house. Can we go in the house?
We can.
I mean, that's up to him. It's his house. If you guys...
Alright, so during that whole section there, where the neighbor comes over and says the only thing I've seen was Nicole showing up and then Chris leaving in the morning, the cop tells him to go check for any other signs of something being out of the ordinary. Meanwhile, this whole time, Chris was alone in the house, okay? So that whole section was timed. He was in the house alone for 1 minute and 20 seconds. What was he doing in the house for that long? Some people have speculated that he was moving something, whatever he found in the car, he was getting rid of it, because it does look like he did actually pick something up out of the car. Let's watch this again.
So this is the only vehicle she would have?
Only one that, yeah.
She would drive? Okay.
So look, he gets into the car. Okay, watch this. This is actually really important. All right.
So this is the only vehicle she would have?
So he goes into there. He looks in the window. Okay, he looks in the window. He walks away. But then it looks like something caught his eye, and he goes back for it. See how he doubled back? Did another extra look into the car, opens the door, and looks for something. He then grabs something and then turns his back to the cop. Let's watch that one more time. All right, so he walks over to the car, takes a look inside, walks away, comes back, he stutter steps, and then looks even closer. He opens the door, digs around, pulls something out. There's something in his hand. I don't know if it's like a piece of paper or what it is. I can't really tell. But then he turns his back to the cop and walks away. She then looks in the car. Chris goes in the house. Straight into the house, not even acknowledging the cop. So that to me is a little odd. I wonder what he picked up there. If you know what it was, let me know down in the comments. Alright, so a few minutes later, Chris opens the door, lets everyone inside.
Mind if I come in, Chris?
The cop asks for permission.
Okay.
He says yeah. Chris begins to walk towards the back of the house. So a little bit later, they move upstairs. Chris and Nicole and the friend are also looking around the house, checking for anything out of the ordinary. And then Chris comes up with something to help sway the police. Let's take a look.
I'm checking the house for consent.
Down the phone.
Oh. Well, shoot. Any friends you know she would be hanging out with?
I mean,
I know, I guess her
Amanda,
parents are out of state.
across country, North Carolina.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's not happening. She can play with it. All the girls' blankies are gone.
He says all the girls' blankies are gone. Let's keep watching.
Their blankie they sleep with, they don't leave anywhere without them.
Good. Nothing else appears to be missing though, just
No.
stuff you'd take for a quick trip.
So Chris points out that the blankies are gone, which the girls would never leave without him. So that swayed the cop, or so he thought, into thinking that it's just a little quick trip. They went somewhere really quick and they'll be back. Nothing's wrong. They just left for a little bit and nothing out of the ordinary besides the fact that they didn't tell anyone. So Chris is already starting to sway what the police thinks. Alright, so let's take a look at this little section here. This is when Nicole mentions that Chris told her that she was leaving with some friends for a little play date. Let's go ahead and watch this.
That she went on a play date with the girls, and then
That's what she told me.
Addie said you told her that
Yeah, she went with some friends with, she went to go to a friend's house with the kids. That's why I knew they weren't at school.
Addie said you told her that she left in the middle of the night.
Oh no, she didn't leave in the middle of the night, no.
Yeah.
Where do you kids go to school at?
Primrose and Vista Ridge.
Daniel said talk to you.
Okay. Hey. Yeah. No. Yeah, she said she was at a friend's house. That's what she told me she was going to do.
Nicholas.
Watch his behavior.
No clue at whatsoever why she wouldn't take her cell phone.
He's pacing.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
So at this point, you can hear the nervousness in Chris's voice. Listen to how out of breath he sounds.
There's no like cough text.
And the stuttering.
Can you look at your camera to see from your security system to see when she left?
Unless they left out the front door.
Because you told me that she.
So right here, Nicole mentions, why don't you check the security cameras out the front door? Chris automatically shuts that down and says it won't show anything. What do you mean? It's not going to show a thing. This is not a husband concerned for his wife and kids. This is a man concerned of getting caught. Any husband, even if they have marital issues, would be very concerned about the whereabouts of their family because that's also his kids. That is his right to have his kids. But in this situation, this Chris right here, he is involved, so he does not want to check everything. He automatically shuts everything down that could be a possibility. We'll see it further on later as well, where Nicole keeps bringing up ideas like, what if she's here? What if she's here? What if this happened? Why don't you check this? Every single time, Chris says, no, not a chance. Not possible. How would you know that it's not possible unless you know where they are?
Yeah, she went with some friends with, she went to go to a friend's house with the kids. That's why I knew they weren't at school.
Addie said you told her that she left in the middle of the night.
Oh no, she didn't leave in the middle of the night, no.
Yeah.
automatically shutting that down.
Where do you get to go to school at?
Primrose and Vista Ridge. Okay. Hey. Yeah.
See how out of breath he is? Hey. Yeah. He's trying to calm himself down. Have you ever been in a situation where you're so nervous or like your fear is just heightened and your heart starts racing, you start getting a little like maybe sweaty, your heart rate picks up because it's that fight or flight response. And that's what's happening to Chris right now. You can see it. And he tries to calm it down by pacing around the house while on the phone. See, he starts pacing, he walks away from the cop and turns his back to him, goes to a corner and walks back. He is trying to calm himself down. He is trying to hide himself from the police's view. Turns his back to him, walks to a corner for safety, and then walks into the room away from the cop. Alright, so in this next part, the officer is now starting to suspect Chris as being involved. Let's go ahead and watch this clip, and then we will analyze it.
Dispatch Rec 91. You can cancel medical if they're staged.
Watch that. Let's watch it one more time.
Dispatch Rec 91. You can cancel medical if they're staged.
Okay, so Chris gets off the phone with whoever he was talking to. I'm not really sure who it was. I couldn't really hear it. But he hands back the phone to Nicole. The officer was waiting for Chris to get off the phone so that he could see Chris's response to his action. Now, the officer repositions himself behind Chris to call in to the radio. So Chris picks back up his phone. The officer then walks behind him and calls in to the station.
Dispatch Rec 91. You can cancel.
Look how terrified Chris's face is. Look how panicked he is. You know that officer picked up on that. The officer was starting to suspect him. You could tell because he was starting to hold his hand up by his mouth, starting to judge him. And this is what people do when they're trying to figure someone out. They put their hand on their chin and they start watching someone and trying to judge them for what they were. Now, this face right here is a huge sign to the officer. Chris fell into the officer's trick. As you can see, he went behind Chris to call off the medical team, and he did it behind him and away from him to make it seem like he might be calling in Chris to be arrested. That's why Chris had this reaction, because he thought he was being called in to be arrested. Hence the sheer panic on his face. So this here is another example of Nicole trying to figure out what the heck happened to her friend and try to think of any possibility of where they could be to look. She still has that hope. Meanwhile, Chris is glued to his phone. So listen to the way he responds to this suggestion that is highly plausible.
At the pool?
So he goes, at the pool? There's no way. He absolutely denies the idea that they could be at the pool. Now, if you didn't know where your wife was and you were concerned about where her location is, then you would be like, yeah, she might be at the pool. Her phone is sitting right here, okay? People don't take their phones to the pool sometimes because it's wet and you don't want to get your phone wet. So that's completely a plausible question. She could be at the pool. It was really hot out that day. I think it was like 90 degrees or something. So it's completely possible that they could be at the pool. But Chris automatically shuts it down and says there's no way she's at the pool. I could check, but she ain't gonna be there, is what his attitude basically was.
Center thing right here. Yeah.
His reaction is completely uninterested. So this brings the cop into this next question.
You guys have any kind of issues, marital issues, or?
Where? One.
guys filed yet or anything, or just talking
No,
about it?
we're gonna sell the house and do a separation.
And how's that going?
It's going
Civil for the most
civil,
part, or?
yeah.
So after watching Chris for about 30 minutes, the officer picks up that he is not very interested in finding his wife. He's very in on his phone, uninvolved, shutting down every possibility of where she could be. And the officer notices that. So he says maybe there's marital issues, and he brings up the question of if there are. Chris says, yeah, they were going through a separation, they were going to sell the house. And the officer says, did you file yet? And Chris is talking past tense, whereas the officer is talking present. He said, are you going to follow? Chris says, we were getting separated. So just another thing to point out. A few minutes later, Chris decides to bring out a big weapon of, hey, this is going to save me. And I'm so smart because he is so narcissistic. He believes he can wheedle his way out of this. Let's go ahead and watch this clip. So Chris staged finding the ring. He left it there and thought it would be a good idea to bring it out and be like, I told you she wanted to leave me. Watch it how he holds the wedding ring. It is completely as far away as possible from him that it can be. It is on the tip of his finger and it's pointed away from him. He doesn't want it anywhere near him. Hey there, it's me from the future. This episode was going to be a lot longer than I wanted it to be. There was so much to cover with Chris Watts' body language, so I decided to make it into a 2-part series. This episode covers the main parts captured in Chris's house, but in the next episode, we will be covering Chris's body language at his neighbor's house watching the security cam footage. So, if you are watching and enjoying Psych Reacts, be sure to drop a like down below. It truly does help me out. Hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. And I will see you tomorrow. Peace!